Sadnam. We are Jen and Ramtin from Heart Center Revolution.
Our intention with this podcast is to share the best of Kundalini yoga and conscious living with you so you can live a more heart-centered life. Satnam, and welcome to episode 29 of the Heart Centered Revolution podcast. This episode is an extra special episode because we have our first ever guest interview on our podcast. The guest, her name is Heather Fleming, and she's from Conscious Nutrition, and she's become one of my good friends over the past year, and I am so excited to share her with you. She's one of the most joyful people I've ever met, and her take on nutrition is so spot on in alignment with what we teach here at Heart Centered Revolution and what the overall goal of Kundalini yoga is. It's like eerie and scary. So in this episode, Heather shares a couple of her big tips on how to shift how you relate to food. She shares how a spiritual practice and our relationship with food are actually really interconnected. And then she and I announced a project that we've been working on for months. It's been so fun working with her to get this project off the ground, and I can't wait to share it with you. After the conversation that Heather and I share with you, I will lead you through a 3-minute pranayam practice. And this meditation helps to boost energy, bring in extra focus. It's a great one for when you feel tired or like you're struggling to pay attention. And before we jump into Heather's conversation, I kind of want to address, the vegan, vegetarian elephant in the room that is there when anyone talks about food within the yogic community. I first want to acknowledge that there are sound teachings on at least reducing the amount of meat that you eat while you're practicing yoga and meditation. But within the yogic community, these eating habits have become almost dogmatic. And as a result, these lines around what you eat or don't eat are creating separation between people and separation within the community of us versus them and this group versus that group. And that is the absolute antithesis of yoga, whose main intention is that we were all interconnected and we are all part of the same divine whole. And so maybe I'll do a separate episode about kind of the yogic teachings around eating meat, just because it is really interesting when you get into what the teachings say and kind of the reasoning behind it, because it's kind of taken on a whole life of its own within the yogic community. But for the purposes of this episode, we're really focusing less on what you're eating and more about how you're connecting with the food that you eat and how you're connecting with yourself and how your relationship with food can be a part of your spiritual practice. All right, let's jump into the interview. Okay, today we have Heather Fleming from Conscious Nutrition. She's here to join us and share some of her work with us. So Heather and I met actually at a business conference that we were both attending. We were at a retreat and we happened to sit next to each other at lunch, and she's like this bright ray of sunshine. And so I said, "Hello, sunshine." And we just started talking, and she's a nutritionist and I teach Kundalini yoga. But we just found so much overlap and so much commonality in our mission that we just felt this instant connection. So even though we teach different things, our goal is to help people connect with the highest part of themselves, with their true selves, to just fully live from the heart, self-acceptance, just kind of dropping all the conditioning we've brought on, whether it's around life or food. So we just are really kindred spirits on the same mission and just have different modalities. And so I'm so excited to share her work with you.
Thanks for having me, Jen. When I met you and heard your business name, I was instantly irate because it was the best business name ever. I remember just going, you have that name, Heart Centered Revolution. My whole life made sense. And I spent, 39 years by then, or 40 some years living in my head from nutrition and my life and letting my head control me. And here you go and say Heart Centered Revolution. I'm like, that's what we all need. So I go, I'm like
Yeah.
heart-centered nutrition. I'm buying I'm buying that domain tomorrow.
It'd be so funny if our businesses merged into like
Totally.
one master business.
Let's
That's
do.
that's awesome. Well, we've got some of those plans, but we'll share
Yes,
that
we do.
later.
We do have some merging.
But can you share with us a little bit about like how you got into nutrition, like how you ended up on this path?
Well, I am 100% sure I'm living my life's purpose. And isn't that cool? I love just owning that. And nutrition, growing up in the state of Nebraska, I
Mhm.
had digestive difficulties, acne. I was on antibiotics for 12 years, had every infection possible. And I remember at like a young age going, well, if I eat this, my stomach won't hurt as much. And
Wow.
so then my friends in grade school and high school would be like, oh, Heather, you pick what we eat. Oh, Heather, you tell us well, I want to order what you ordered. You're like so happy, but I had to choose it because my stomach hurt so bad. So I
Mhm.
was like, well, if I eat this and then not that, now I'll feel better. So it was from a place of not feeling bloated, discomfort, and having more zits at that young age. So it was very superficial, but it was also my core, my inner self was on
Yeah.
fire. And then I got kicked out of Nebraska for being who I am and came over to California. And within like 3 days, all my digestive difficulties went away. They were already clearing up when I went to go
Yeah.
study nutritional science, but then I would have flare-ups, or
Mhm.
I would think this was healthy, and my stomach and body did not. So I just didn't
Mm.
trust myself, and I had the biggest love-hate relationship with food that I've probably ever met from anyone. Was
Wow.
me, because I loved food. My family was beautiful. My parents were beautiful cooks. My family was actually, my whole family was really great cooks, and food was always just delightful. So that was the love. But the hate was
Mhm.
when I was in the bathroom for the rest of the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I also am curious, like, what do you think sets you apart from other nutritionists
That's a
or
good
from like
one.
traditional nutritional teachings?
I remember you good, I have an answer. I remember standing up in a conference, just, can we swear here? Pissed off. I was angry.
Yes.
I was like, and everyone was like, trainers and nutritionists, and was like, well, our clients have bad habits. We just need to enforce this. Like, it was all
Oh,
these very intense, masculine, critical words, which are great at sometimes, but I stood up and I said, they are already harder on themselves than we are. No, we're done. We can't be another critic to make them more accountable, make them feel bad about themselves to change their habits. And I walked out of the conference. So I would say I became like a compassion guru nutritionist instead of, oh, you're
wow.
bad. Oh, you're wrong. Oh, are you sure you should eat that? I mean, there is a cue. I guess my clients tell me that there is a cue that I do. I go, however,
You've got to tell.
I have a towel. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, however, like, what else is, but it's usually what else is going on, not, oh, you
Yeah.
ate that, like whatever we've, claimed as not good. You can throw in anything. I've heard it all, actually. I was on a radio
Yeah.
interview once and they were like, oh, we read that apples were bad today. I go, are you serious? Is this? And then I was like, I'm done. I don't know how to help people. So now how I feel like my gift is helping people just listen to that inner voice, that little inner knowing and not annoying, inner knowing and connecting to that inner knowing
Yeah.
and not being annoyed by it, because there's a reason you're craving it. There's a reason there's a desire or a need there, instead of judging it so quickly.
Yeah, and one of the first things when we met that struck with me was you were kind of about like we shouldn't have to follow rules with our food. At least long term, of course. Like you got to
Yeah.
experiment with things to see how they work for your body. But like if you're implying like strict rules over your food, then you're actually disconnecting from your intuition. You're disconnecting from your inner guide. And that really hit home with me. And I think is where I found our connection because I was
Yeah.
like, oh yes, like I've been doing this. I've been
Oh,
following
we've been
pretty,
trained.
and I enjoy following strict models, or I did before because I felt in control. But then you like fall off and it's not sustainable and it's not always enjoyable. If you have a piece of pizza to feel guilty about it because you're not like
Yeah.
on your plan. And so when we had that conversation about like shifting your relationship with food and having it not be like rules based and be more intuitive, feeling based was so powerful for me.
Control. Oh my God. So when you said control, I'm like, well, that's fear. Control is fear.
Mhm.
Like that. And the opposite of control is love. So
Yeah.
yeah, do we want to experiment and have some parameters and try intermittent fasting or try this? Cool. But what are the thoughts in our head? Like, I have to be a good girl and do it well, perfectly. Or
Yeah.
I'm going to be a failure. And that critic in our head, like that critic is no, thank you. I don't need your advice right now. Like, we got to clip that, because otherwise we're just being running from that program all the time, and we're going to criticize the apple, the darn apple, like I was like, what? No, apples are fine on the ketogenic diet. They're not. I'm like, no, be careful, because you're just going down a
Yeah.
slippery slope. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and just like the joy in life, at least for me, like there's so much joy in all of our experiences, and to have strict rules about you will or won't do, whether it's food or experience or whatever, like you're limiting the amount of joy
yeah.
and like experimentation you can have and flexibility, and life is short. We got to enjoy the moments that we have.
And we love to have parameters, and we love to like challenge ourselves to do more, so
Yeah.
that's part of our DNA. But how are we talking to ourselves while we're doing that? So,
That's such a good point. And
and
how are
food,
we relating to those parameters? Is it with love
yeah,
and with intention, or are we criticizing ourselves
yeah, yeah,
and punishing ourselves when we don't
punishing.
live up?
Hmm.
Um, but I've been curious because we actually haven't had this conversation, but
Ooh.
how do you think like a spiritual practice like Kundalini yoga or whatever practice people are doing kind of overlaps or relates to people's relationship with food?
Beautiful. I would say my hardest struggle is to get people in their bodies. So
Mm.
something has happened traumatically. I work with a lot of obesity, and I would say a high percentage was sexually abused at a young age.
Wow.
So being in your body was not safe at
Yeah.
all. Like, nope, like go back in your head. So I came up with a quick tip, because their heads were so strong, and I just wanted them to just put a toe back into their body, of one
Mhm.
hand on your heart and one hand on your tummy, which is your vagus nerve. Is like your center
Mm.
of knowing, which Kundalini is totally from the root
Yeah.
chakra. Actually, I'm not a Kundalini expert. I'm a wannabe. I love it. But that energy from your root chakra up through your core, all the way up, is just helping you connect with your body, versus this highway from the head to
Mhm.
the body is the opposite highway that we're supposed to be going
Yeah.
through. But I see a lot of people cut themselves off from the neck down. Throat chakra, look at our thyroid issues. Now, thyroid issues, when I studied nutrition, were 1 in 100, or actually
Mhm.
probably 1 in 200. Now you can throw a rock and everybody has thyroid issues.
Wow, because we're
And
so disconnected.
we're so disconnected. It's your endocrine system. It's so much more than, I think the thyroid is trying to help you. So I'm not a
Mm.
big fan of trying to change it and manipulate
Yeah.
it. I think it's actually trying to balance things out for you. And you can't
Yeah.
give it a static drug to do so. If it works for you, great. Not disclaimer there, but connecting with your body is a constant practice. Who has not jumped out of their body today from a fearful thought?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want to feel that. Ooh, I can't take that on right now. I'm going to
That's
try to
so
control it and manipulate it in my head.
yeah. It's fascinating because I feel that I disconnect the most when I'm at work. And then I often like have like impulses to eat really comforting foods
Oh,
and
oh,
like heavy foods or have chocolate. And I think it's
absolutely.
like to come back in my body. And that disconnection is
So,
interesting.
so Kundalini, like that flare up. So I call those hormone flare ups. I think I had
Uh-huh.
about 38 of them today, because we're human. We're having fires in your area. The air quality, you can feel the air quality. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can. The winds
Oh,
are here.
yeah. It smells
Right,
like
right.
fire outside.
It's just like, oh wow, there's a flare up. There's a flare up. So every time we have a flare up, it's that deep breath, which we'll talk about, and just reconnecting to our body. You all are pros with, the sat nam or anything we can do to just go, oh, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm
Mhm.
I'm back in my body. So being in your body, not being in your body is one of the most detrimental aspects of being unhealthy, really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And having that spiritual practice kind of specifically, especially yoga,
Yes,
like brings you into your body so that you can
absolutely.
listen. Because I find sometimes I think that I'm craving a pizza, but if I have like a nice bowl of warm soup, it's also fine. Like it gets the need
Right.
met. Again, not judging the pizza, but
Never. But and that if we go straight to judgment, we're in a cortisol flare up too. And then 2
yeah,
days later you eat the pizza and then you're like, "Oh no, I'm bad. I didn't have enough willpower." So we have to
yeah.
that's the game we get to play. And one of my favorite things is when I have everyone touch their heart and their tummy, you take the 5 deep breaths to
Mm,
relax your sympathetic nervous system, get into our parasympathetic nervous system, which is Kundalini
for
galore.
sure.
That's all Kundalini is like that's why I'm so delighted when I'm there. And then
Yeah.
you ask your body if you want hot, cold, sweet, and savory, which is yin and
Mm,
yang. That's yin
mm,
and yang. So if I'm craving pizza and I go make a smoothie, I am crabby. I am not
yeah.
happy. It is not doing it. So I was craving a pizza for a couple days and then I was like, what can I do? Because I had wanted my mental clarity to be stronger and pizza kind of throws that off for me. But so I was like, ooh, I'll go get a gluten-free bagel, a heirloom tomato, and then I put sprouts on it and
Yeah.
cucumber, and I've never been happier in my life. And the stress of the want and the need went away, and I received a need too.
Yeah. I love that tip of, if you're seeking for something, if your body's seeking something, is it warm or cold, sweet or
I love it.
savory, and following that guideline. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your meditation or spiritual practice?
I'd love to. So I was living on a sailboat in the ocean, and I was trying to meditate. I was like trying to follow little guided ones, and I would do it one day and then not for 3 days. And then a friend came over, and my anxiety was like higher than it's been in a long time because I was really doing well managing it, but I was like, it's not manageable. So she goes, you should call my meditation teacher. And I was already researching transcendental meditation, but
Mhm.
the price range was out of my price range while
Yeah.
living on the sailboat at that time. And so I call her meditation teacher, and on the phone I said something about anxiety. He goes, oh well, yeah, you raise your anxiety. It's an addiction because you need to raise it to get what you need, like to get the
Mm.
result that you're wanting to achieve. So
Mhm.
it was, and he just like within a sentence, I was like, all right, I'll see you tomorrow. His price was like 1/3 less, and it was very
Uh-huh.
similar. And I meditated every day, twice a day for the first year. But
Wow.
I'm a rebel at heart, and so then I'm like, well, I only need one meditation. So I get up in the morning, usually use the restroom, and do 15 to 20 minutes, depending on my energy level and timing.
Yeah.
However, my rebel is so strong that I tell her that we are not going to do it 100%. So we
Uh-huh.
are not 100%ers. We are 85 to 90%ers. And if I'm at 100%, she will remind me we were only doing 85 or 90. And I'm like, you're right, honey. You are absolutely right. We will skip today. And so,
Yeah.
but then by the next day, we're back on.
That is
So,
so interesting. Why do you think that works for you?
ooh,
How do you think that works for you?
oh my gosh, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And that
Yeah.
perfectionist grip is control and fear. So if I sit
Yes.
there and stay in less than, I'm not worthy, I don't trust myself. So in a way, I'm proving that I trust myself by skipping that day. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I trust us. We can skip a day.
Oh, I just got chills when you said that. That is incredible. Because I feel like the same, I mean, you are talking about meditation practice, but even what we were talking about the food of we, especially our culture has so many rigid beliefs. And like even within the
Yeah,
Kundalini community, there's like expectations that are put on you by teachers that
correct.
can feel unrealistic. And you're like putting all this pressure on yourself to practice every day, and like it can go up to 2.5 hours a day where people feel like they need to do this practice every
Wow.
day. And
Mhm.
to be fair, like a daily practice is
Beautiful.
beautiful and purposeful.
So
And
gorgeous.
I've
It's heaven.
committed, yeah, to so
It's
many of
heaven.
them over the course of the years. But to apply that pressure, and it's just your approach is so interesting to like
I,
have that release valve of,
I've
I'll take a
applied
day off.
so much pressure. That's, high blood pressure, like, what are we going to keep
Yeah.
doing to our bodies? So it was a game. It was such a funny game to even watch too, that I was like, oh God, I'm kind of scared that I'm going to just never go back to meditating. So
Yes.
I got to embrace that fear that was it was underneath there too. So all those fears are underneath there. And me just not living from a place of shame for so long, like, oh, I'm shaming myself for skipping. Instead, I'm like, you're right. We rock. I trust us. We're going to be right back on the wagon tomorrow. Or I don't like the offer on the wagon. We'll be right back into the feel of it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I am, because my monthly, it is 85 to 90%. But when I do 100, I will skip and go down to 50%. And then I'll be back in this craziness of control and not enough. And I'm never going to accept myself. Versus, I do accept this part of me. She's a hoot, and we're just going to learn to play with this until it shifts, because it may shift again someday too.
Yeah, that is so fun. I just love that approach to it. It reminds me, I was journaling a few weeks ago, and I'll often journal and then I'll end up upon like a mantra that I'll repeat, because it's like I'm trying to like reprogram a new thought. And the one that came up was that consistency is more powerful than perfection.
Oh,
and it's like something
I just got goosebumps.
I'm always reminding myself, like, consistency is more powerful than perfection, because if I aim for perfection, then I'll quit, because it's impossible. Like, we all have busy lives. It's impossible.
Good. Consistency. I'm writing that one down. I did mine. On our deathbed, we're not going to go, oh God, I was so glad I was perfect. I am certain of that. I'm going to go, whoa, what a shit show that was. I won, and I won.
Yeah, that is so funny. We're going to be like, whoa, I'm so glad I was perfect.
I didn't go, oh, I'm so glad I did it so clean and perfect and kept everything in the box. But
well, when you put that, like, I'm so glad I didn't eat that piece of pizza. Like, that's no one ever said that.
No one's
maybe regret eating like 400 pieces of pizza, but not that one.
And from a place of disconnect and worry and fear.
Yeah.
Because there was something else we needed. 9 out of 10 times we need to take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
The other, and we need a sip of water. We might need to call a friend, or we might just need a hug. Those are the top 4 things we need. It's always those 4 things. And then we go, oh, do I want to go out for pizza with friends? Yes, I do. And I'm going to call them, and I'm booking that on Saturday night, period. Like, it's happening. And then there's this ownership, and there's a liberation from it, because you're in choice, not in victim mode around it.
Yeah.
Either.
Well, and like you said, it's coming at it from love and freedom instead of fear and control, which is such an easy habit to fall into, which is crazy. Well, we are going to share an awesome thing we have coming up. But before we get into that announcement, I wanted to invite you to share, like, how can people connect with you and follow up with you if they feel called to learn more?
Thank you. Well, I'm consciousnutrition.com, and we've been growing up together for like 12 years and evolving. And now I have recently released a quiz on discover what your feeling eater type is.
Ooh.
I know. And there's 8 categories, and you can all guess that I am the rebel and I'm the leader of this feeling eater. And you can take the quiz. It's complimentary. You'll get a free report on how to practice with your feeling eater, on like what's going on in your subconscious. And then I give you 3 tips with feel, meal, and heal. So we do talk about food. We do talk about connecting to ourselves. We do talk about poop and energy and hydration. But it's all about that connection with yourself first. That's the one. Like shining a light on that awareness of, oh, wow, I am a obsessiver, or I am a guilter. So those are some of the categories. So you can take the quiz, and I can give you the link for that. And
I'll actually create a link. So it'll be at heartcenteredrevolution.com /feeling quiz. Yeah, I took the quiz, and I'm also a rebeler. But when I read the report, it was so nice to have like simple things I can do to feel connected and to kind of undo some of my habits that build momentum sometimes for me and feel out of control. Like, just have a little more awareness of some of my subconscious habits. So I definitely recommend going to take the quiz. It's heartcenteredrevolution.com /feeling quiz will take you to Heather's site.
Perfect. And I love that I'm like allowing us to realize we can be human and cope with food. Like,
Yeah.
unless you're going to become a breatharian, go for it. Like, I'm in, like, that's great. But I'm a food, like, I'm like, oh, we're meeting tonight. Oh, what should I make for us that will make us feel happy, that help us
Mhm.
feel connected and have more joy? Like, that would just be cutting off one of my appendages. If I decided to become breatharian tomorrow. And I love what you
Yeah.
said too, undo this constant programming of should, not enough, not enough, not enough. Like, we're undoing that.
Yeah. So I think your point of difference for
Yeah.
nutritionists, at least from the limited exposure I've had to other ones, is that you bring the joy back into being a nutritionist. And like, let's bring the joy back into our relationships with
Well, look,
food and eating well.
right. Well, look at the core word is nourish of nutritionist. And all of a sudden we
Yeah.
became these black and white. And I mean, back in the day, people would call me and ask what foods have magnesium. Now there's this thing called Google that I don't,
Yeah.
so my job did shift a lot. And I realized it was so much deeper, emotional. And it's so much deeper to that connection, not just this knowledge. The knowledge is great, but it's at our fingertips now. And you need to turn it into wisdom for yourself. The,
Yeah.
Otherwise you're not happy.
That's so true. Because you can't, like, you can find if you search Google, like, any food is bad for you.
100%.
You can find
100%.
any
I've done it.
diet
I've
will
done it.
rule out a whole category of
Yes,
food. It's crazy.
correct. It's scary.
I have loved hearing about your work, but I think we can share what we're up to.
Great.
So I was visiting Heather in San Diego, interestingly, on a sailboat. And we were just working and visiting, and just kind of out of the ethers, this idea popped into our mind
Mhm.
I don't know, through our intuition, to
Totally.
create a loving space and time and retreat to help our people transition for the new year. And
Mm.
so we had talked about how the new year has a lot of hype around it. And at least I know for myself, every new year, I tell myself I'm going to set aside, a few days. I'm going to journal. I'm going to reflect.
Yeah.
I'm going to connect with myself, set my intentions for the next year. Like, it's such a beautiful time
Mm.
to release, to go within, to get into alignment. But I never do it because I get busy and there's activities going on and socializing, and I have work duties over that time. And so, unless I were to commit to something like this and take myself out of the day to day, then I
Mhm.
would never be able to honor that time period the way it should be. And so, that's where kind of the impetus for this retreat was born.
Totally. Absolutely. I was like, for the new year last year, I did a little mental detox with Byron Katie for the day. And I was like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, I can't wait to do that again. And then, then Jen and I are like, oh, wait, why don't we just lead one? And now we're all benefiting. I get to be your intuitive cook and see how the group feels and create meals from feels and meals, create meals from that space of joy and support and connection. I know when I've cooked in other retreats, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't worry about food the whole time. I'm like, oh, good. My job is
Yeah.
done.
Good. So we rented this awesome house in Temecula. So it's here in Southern California. We're going to be there it's like 4 evenings or 4 nights.
Yeah.
And we're going to just do daily yoga in the morning. We're going to meditate at night. Heather's going to make us delicious food that she's going to prepare intuitively. Like, she's not going to have a full meal plan going in.
Mm-mm.
She's going to feel the vibe of the group, of that time period, and
Yep.
create, beautiful meals for us. And so we're doing some Kundalini practices and meditations every day. And then we have the food prepared by Heather.
Yep.
And then we will have plenty of downtime to kind of relax and
Yes.
integrate. And so this isn't the kind of retreat where you're going to like have every minute filled up.
No.
The purpose
No.
is to relax and kind of receive and let go. And then two things I'm really excited about, especially for my Kundalini yoga people, is that we're going to do one of the Kriyas is going to be a rebirthing Kriya. And so these are some of the Kriyas set aside by Yogi Bhajan to clear such significant parts of our subconscious mind that you come out the other end of the practice like a new person. So that's why they're
Wow.
called rebirthing kriyas.
Wow.
And we also, they're just amazing. I don't do them too much because they shift so much energy. I like to do one and then integrate for like 90
That's
days.
Cool.
But so we're going to do one to help us kind of transition out of 2019 and into 2020.
And when she mentioned this, she didn't even get all the words out. And I was like, yes, that, whatever you said. And then I'm helping us with our subconscious, with our relationship with food. So we're just, and when you just said that too, when we create space, there's more that can flow in. And that's what we're doing. And 2020, this year, we always say it every year, but this one feels really powerful. 2020 vision, clarity. So when you said we're doing the rebirthing Kriya, I was like, okay, how can I sign up for this?
I know.
I'll cook.
I'm excited that I get to be there. And then we also have a gong coming with us. So we were able to get a Chiron gong. And so we'll do some gong baths and gong relaxation, which also releases subconscious. So this is such a good opportunity to get in contact with yourself, release what's no longer serving you, that's like below the surface, that stuff that's easy to avoid and ignore all year when you're busy. And then we're also going to spend some time setting intentions for the next year and really celebrating life, being joyful. And so if you want to learn more, you can visit heartcenteredrevolution.com/retreat. So I'll have a link in the show notes for this episode, or you can always email me at jen@heartcenteredrevolution.com because we would love to meet all of you there. It's going to be really special. I also should say that there's a small number of people that can go. Like this is a very small retreat since it's the first one we're doing. So if you're interested, you really should sign up soon. Yeah.
Wonderful.
And we'd love to see you there. Okay. Thank you so much, Heather, for joining us.
Jen, thank you so much for having me. Hello, all the heart-centered revolutioners.
And I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. So I hope you enjoyed getting to know Heather as much as I have over the past few years, and that you enjoyed this interview and kind of a different take on how to relate to nutrition. So now we'll transition into our meditation for today. Okay, so today's meditation practice is right nostril breathing. So we actually have 72,000 energetic channels throughout our body, but there are 3 main ones. And so there's the central channel, or Sushumna, and then there's 2 energetic channels that spiral around that Sushumna. And one is the Ida, and that one is activated through our left nostril, and that brings us cooling, calming energy. So that's the meditation that we did last time. And then today we're going to experiment with right nostril breathing. And so that activates the Pingala Nadi, which is bringing that sun energy. So it's activating, it brings heat. So if you're feeling lethargic or you don't have the energy to do what you need to do on any given day, just a little right nostril breathing can get you that energy boost without feeling, frantic or taxing your nervous system the way caffeine does or sugar does. So you're ready to get started with me? So get yourself in your comfortable seat. Come sitting up tall. Heart is open. Let's roll the shoulders up, back, and down. Pull the crown of the head up towards the heavens. Chin comes tucked gently back so you feel an opening in the back of your neck. And then go ahead and close your eyes. We're going to begin with some long, deep breathing. So inhaling, filling up that belly. As the belly fills up, we move to filling up the ribs or the chest. And as that becomes full, the inhale comes up to the clavicle or the upper heart. Exhaling, upper clavicle comes down, ribs contract, navel to spine. Completely exhaling, inhaling belly, ribs, and chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Beautiful. Keep this breathing pattern going. Bring your left hand up to your nose. Gently close your left nostril and just inhale and exhale through your right. So inhaling, belly, ribs, and chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Keep breathing with me. Keep the eyes closed. If your mind is wandering, bring it back to the breath. Or you can always mentally chant Sat on the inhale and Nam on the exhale. Inhaling Sat, exhaling Nam. Keep the eyes closed, staying up tall. Inhaling and exhaling through the right nostril. You may notice that this nostril is a little congested. So if you need to, if you can't get good enough breaths through your right nostril, just bring your left hand down and breathe through both. Long, deep breathing through both nostrils is still a great pranayam practice. But if you can get enough air through that right channel, it'll start to open it up. Activating that Sushumna Nadi, bringing in alertness and energy. Let's do 2 more breaths. Inhaling, belly, ribs, and chest. Exhaling, chest, ribs, and belly. Last one, inhaling a great wave from the bottom of your torso all the way to the top. Exhaling the opposite direction. Beautiful. Release your left hand down. Inhale deeply through both nostrils. Suspend the breath gently. Squeezing the body, directing the energy up the center of the body and out the crown of the head. Eyes are focused at the third eye. Exhale, relax the breath, relax the shoulders. Just noticing any shift in energy that you felt after this very quick, brief practice. We did about 3 minutes of right nostril breathing. You can always do more. Okay, blink your eyes open. Awesome. That is it for this episode of the Heart-Centered Revolution podcast. Reminders that if you want to take that quiz that Heather was talking about, it's heartcenteredrevolution.com/feeling quiz. If you want to check out the retreat, the name of it is actually called the Renew Year Retreat. But the website is heartcenteredrevolution.com/retreat. I'm sure you missed Ramtin, so he will be back on the next episode. All right, we love you. Sat Nam.